So I've been wanting to talk about my testimony for a while and me navigating with having OCD as a Christian and being a voice for others who don't know what's going on with them. Long story short, the verse that triggered these obsessional fears was in Matthew 7 when I just started reading the Bible. And Jesus says, "Depart from me, I never knew you," to professing Christians. And basically these false Christians were like, well, we cast out demons, we did mighty works in your name, we did X, Y, and Z. And he's like, I never knew you, depart from me. And he sends them to hell forever. And my thought is like, well, man, I've done stuff in the church. I've been raised in church. Like, I did all these things, it's like, am I one of those, And I believe that was the moment that I came to salvation, but I'm still not sure because I've been raised in church my whole life. But that's what started basically all the fears. And so I lived every single day. This was like in 2020, but for like 4 years, or 2019, one of those, I lived every single day thinking about that verse. Depart from me, I never knew you. Depart from me, I never knew you. Like that went in my head every day. And I think like, well, how can I know he won't say that to me? I mean, I would ask like counselors and stuff, or my dad. It's like, how do I know he won't say that to me? And he's like, you're thinking about it too much. And also the verse in Hebrews 6, where it says those formerly enlightened, you have to crucify the Son of God again and hold him in contempt to save these kind of people. And I saw myself in so much sin at the time. This was around the time I first got saved. It's like, well, I think I've done that. I think there's no redeeming me. And how can I know that I won't be one of those, I mean, I've wept just like Esau did over his birthright, but I mean, have I sold my birthright? And John Bunyan went through the same thing in his book, Grace Abounding to the Chief of Sinners. And I came across his book, and that was actually a divine appointment because he talked about his doubts he dealt with as a Christian. One of his biggest one was, well, how can I know I'm one of the elect? He was outside around summertime, and he was just like, well, how can I know I'm one of the elect? That was the voice that kept going off in his head. And basically, this is related to Calvinism. Calvinism in the 15th through 17th century was like the dominant doctrine at the time in the Christian faith. And that doctrine is basically God has already chosen who he's going to save and who he's going to damn. And there's nothing you can do about it. Calvin used a bunch of key verses like where it talks about with Pharaoh, hardening his heart, creating vessels of wrath for his glory, and others having mercy. And also it willing not on the man, but on God. And that was one of the counter verses that made Bunyan feel more condemned. It's like, well, it says, I believe, but yeah, it doesn't will on man, but it wills on God. It says that. Well, how can I know I'm one of the elect? That's the cycle of it. With OCD, it's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle of madness. And it just goes on and on. Another verse that got me was Matthew 25, where he says to the goats on his left, depart from me, ye accursed, to the fiery hell, made for the devil and his angels. But he said to those on his right, the sheep, enter into heaven, the everlasting kingdom. But basically to the goats, he was saying, you didn't give me anything to eat. You didn't give me anything to drink. You saw me needy. You didn't help me. You saw me in prison. You didn't see me. So in my mind, when I read that, I started panicking. I was sitting in church service. I remember this Sunday, I was mopping on stage. And I felt like the only soul in the world thinking about these things. It's like, do I need to do prison ministry? Do I need to give? Have I helped orphans and widows? It says in James, that's real religion, helping orphans and widows. Faith without works is dead. Do I even have works? Am I saved? Paul said, I made my body my slave, least I'll be disqualified after preaching to others. Well, I've preached to others, and then I did things in secret I shouldn't have done. Am I disqualified for ministry? Is he talking about ministry? Is he talking about salvation? You see, that's just an example. It spirals out of control. And it's just a trickle effect. And with the Matthew 25 verse pertaining to that, the obsession was the verse, and thinking I'm not doing enough. The compulsion was for me to sell everything. I got down to like 2 or 3 shirts or two or three pants, and I had to do laundry 24/7 because anything I did in excessive, I thought it was greed, and it was just horrible. I wouldn't want it for my worst enemy. And I know there's Christians that deal with this and they don't know what they're dealing with. And just know that God sees you. He understands. And there's been Christians in the past that have dealt with this. Saint Therese, Martin Luther, John Bunyan. There's a bunch of people that have. So the name of my blog is called Hope and Madness. It's just a voice for those going through these things that they don't know why. And for the Christian that's just afflicted, and to know that they're not alone. And just help give answers, and just as a testimony to the power of God. So I want to emphasize, just because you come to Jesus doesn't mean that you'll always get your ailments healed. Sometimes he'll use them for his glory. And I believe that in my case. Nothing I did, but it's all him. And I'm not trying to say I'm something when I'm not anything. Actually, it's not about me. I don't want to make this platform about me. I want it to be about him. And I'm just gonna, on this page, I'm gonna talk about scrupulosity and also bipolar. That's another disorder that plays a part in my Christian life and what that looks like. And I've done a lot of research on it, on scrupulosity, just for this purpose. And I'll be posting more on this.